Uh, Good morning, dear students of HSC class in Rajshahi College, particularly class 12 in Rajshahi College. Though you haven't yet attended your class 11 annual examination, which was scheduled to be held in the month of April because of the corona crisis and its consequent closure of the college. The continuous holidays are going on, and I think immediately after the holidays are over, you will be asked to sit for your annual examination for the promotion to class 12 from class 11, and afterwards we will start your class 12 courses. Well, but since we will have not enough time to take classes for you to prepare yourselves, to prepare you for the upcoming HSC examination, we have decided to start class 12 lessons through online classes. Today I am going to take a class on paragraph writing. You see, you have to write paragraphs in your examination scripts as a part of the syllabus, and in most cases in Bangladesh I see that students memorize paragraphs and essays and just copy them or just reproduce them in verbatim in the examination. But this is not the aim of including the item paragraph writing in your syllabus. It is always expected that you will write, students will write, examinees will write the paragraphs or the essays or other compositions in their own language. And there is another risk of memorizing paragraphs or essays, that is, if you do not get an essay or a paragraph from the essays and paragraphs you have taken for your preparation and memorized, you feel at a loss in the examination hall. That is why you have to prepare yourselves for writing paragraphs or essays in your own language. Apart from the language, paragraph writing has some common rules and regulations. Well, here when you write an informal writing, you do not need to or you need very little to follow any particular rule or structure, but for a formal writing, like in the examination script or for an official letter or for some communication correspondence or official correspondence, you need to write structured and well organized paragraphs. Let us see first what the definition of paragraph says. The definition of paragraph itself determines that a paragraph means the combination of sentences but not random sentences. Rather, we can tell that paragraphs are comprised of sentences but not random sentences. A paragraph is a group of sentences organized around a central topic. Organized around, look at the phrase organized around, that is, a paragraph is meant for an organized writing on a central idea, on a particular idea. In fact, the cardinal rule of paragraph writing is to focus on one idea. A solidly written paragraph takes its readers on a clear path without any detours or without any complexity in thought or idea. So, in the simplest terms, we can tell that a paragraph is something that is told about a particular idea. That idea may be from any of our personal experiences or may be from a common view on that idea. And the presentation of a paragraph should be always be in a very clear language, organized well and structured. What should be the structure of a paragraph? A paragraph has a good paragraph, a model paragraph has some particular parts within its body. That is, a paragraph begins with a topic sentence. The topic sentence may be extended into a second one to explain the first one. The function of the topic sentence is to introduce the main or basic idea, and topic sentence is very much important for a formal paragraph, because in the topic sentence the writer expresses his views, his attitudes and his concepts on the idea he or she is going to write. After the topic sentence or topic sentence and another one explaining the topic sentence, there comes the developers. Developers means a number of sentences, say 4, 5, 6, 7, that support or explain or sorry আপনি বলেন যে আমি ফোন করছিলাম, ওই পরে ফোন করছি। Main topic sentence developers means the extension of the topic sentences that support or explain the main idea with examples or comparisons or contrast or showing the causes or effects of the aspect discussed in the paragraph. Finally, there comes a terminator or the concluding sentence which determines coherence with the topic. So, we have three aspects or three parts in a paragraph, that a topic sentence or two, developers and a concluding sentence called terminator. We, as I have said in the beginning, we may have two types of paragraphs when we write: open and structured paragraph writing. Open paragraph writing means, I am sorry I am not showing it on the screen, try to follow. An open paragraph means a paragraph, descriptive or narrative, that does not need to follow any of the techniques of paragraph writing. And structured paragraph writing means a formal paragraph which is always written in a structure of or techniques, based on some techniques. Well, structured paragraphs may have a number of techniques which we call paragraph development by these techniques. For example, we may develop paragraphs by definition or listing or examples. When we write a paragraph on a single idea, we use the technique of either definition or listing or examples. And there are also paragraphs written on two ideas using the technique of comparison or contrast or both. And finally, we also sometimes are asked to write paragraphs using the technique of cause or effect. Thus, when we are asked or we are guided to write a paragraph following either of the techniques, we have to follow the guideline in the question paper. I will show you how these paragraphs, these different techniques are practiced while writing different paragraphs. And when we are asked to write a paragraph from our experiences or observations on certain events or aspects, we call them open paragraph, which does not need either of the techniques I have mentioned. Now, I am going to show you how paragraphs are developed. You see, there is a paragraph on screen. In the paragraph, we have a title, media and fashions. We have the body of the paragraph and also the terminator. The most important thing while writing a paragraph is to determine the topic sentence. And what is a topic sentence? A topic sentence means the introductory sentence, as I told in a previous slide. Topic sentence introduces the main or basic idea, which takes the idea forward, and in the following sentences called developers, the topic sentence is simply either supported or explained with examples, numbers, contrasts, etc., etc., etc. When we go for writing a structured paragraph, say a paragraph written with the technique of examples, we will have to follow some popular or some fixed language. We have to write in some particular words or languages. For example, just look at the paragraph presented on the screen. The title of the paragraph is Media and Fashions. During the 1990s, I really enjoyed watching Friends on television. Friends, here you see the word Friends is italicized, that is, it is the name of the title of a television program which was published every Thursday night. I really wanted Rachel's haircut. I think every girl wanted Rachel's haircut back then. Rachel's haircut went really well with the Guess jeans that was so popular in the 1990s. I remember all the advertisements for Guess and Calvin Klein jeans that are in each month's Sashi magazine. I don't think Sashi magazine exists anymore. but it was one of the most popular magazines for young women in the 1990s. Well, this is a paragraph written by a girl. Reading the paragraph, we understand that the speaker or the writer is a girl who writes about the fashion in the late 1990s, and she speaks how she was influenced by the haircut of a particular performer in the television show Friends named Rachel. Well, we have the developers and the terminator here. We have the developers such as the description of the time, the introduction to a particular character who was a model for the girls of the time, and it also gives us the idea about the particularity of the haircut of the performer Rachel, and also we get how girls of a time were influenced or inspired to take the haircut. Also it gives an idea how the girls could get the pictures of Rachel from a magazine called Sassy. But we here miss the topic sentence. The topic sentence should be selected on the basis of the ideas or the developers used in the paragraph. What are the ideas we get from the topic of the from the title of the paragraph and from the developers? We get the idea that the topic the paragraph is about the awareness of a girl, the interest of a girl towards fashions and the role of media to develop the fashion awareness among the girls. Therefore, we can simply add the sentence, I became aware of fashions when I was in my juvenile days in 1990s. So, let us insert the sentence at the beginning of the developers. I became aware of fashions when I was in my juvenile days in 1990s. During the 1990s, I really enjoyed watching Friends on television every Thursday night. I really wanted Rachel's haircut. I think every girl wanted Rachel's haircut back then. Rachel's haircut was open really well with the guest jeans that were so popular in the 1990s. I remember all the advertisement for Guess and Calvin Klein jeans that were in each month's Sassy magazine. I don't think Sassy magazine exists anymore, but it was one of the most popular magazines for young women in the 1990s. Well, in this is an open paragraph. I said that the difference between an open paragraph and a structured paragraph is that an open paragraph is written to express the experiences or views or ideas of the writer, while the structured paragraphs are something like the expression of some opinion. In other words, open paragraphs are often subjective, and structured paragraphs are often objective. This is a subjective paragraph because the writer's personal experiences or emotions or ideas are involved in it. So, if we go for finding the parts in this paragraph, we will see that from this is the topic sentence. Sorry. There are the topic sentence or the introductory sentences. I became aware of fashions when I was in my juvenile days in 1990s. And the second one, during the 1990s, I really enjoyed watching fashions, watching Friends on television every Thursday night. The second one is the explanation of the introductory sentence. As I told at the beginning of my speech today, that sometimes a second sentence may be needed to explain the first one or support the topic sentence. So, if you are asked, you can easily identify the topic sentence and its explanation in the second sentence in the paragraph. Well, and sorry. After that begins the developers. I really wanted Raquel's haircut. The relation between the previous sentence and this sentence is that I really enjoyed watching Friends on television every Thursday night. The speaker or the writer explains in the previous sentence the writer or the speaker expresses in the previous section, in the previous sentence about our regular habit of enjoying a television show during the 1990s, and in the developers, the first sentence is I really wanted Rachel's haircut. That is, the reason of watching the television program Friends is explained in the developers, and at the same time the developers include a number of following sentences which show express the writer's view on the idea she is writing about, and the developers continues with the presentation of the idea of a magazine called Sassy, and then there comes the concluding sentence. In the concluding sentence or in the terminator, I do not think Sassy magazine exists anymore. We have two clauses in this sentence. I am highlighting this sentence. Look at the sentence. I do not think Shashi magazine exists anymore, but it was one of the most popular magazines for young women in the 1990s. The first clause or the main clause in the sentence is I do not think Shashi magazine exists anymore. This is not the part of the terminator, but it was one of the most popular magazines for young women in the 1990s. Follow the coordinate clause in the last sentence or in the concluding sentence. It was one of the most popular magazines for young women in the 1990s. Though there is no reference to any magazine in the topic sentence, but the title of the paragraph has a relation with the terminator. What is the title of the paragraph? Media and fashions. The role of media to form one's idea about fashions, one's awareness about fashions is presented in the paragraph. How the speaker was inspired by a performer's haircut and jeans or other attire, and how she got the idea of following Rachel is expressed in the developers. She also says that a particular magazine called Shashi also played a role in the forming of her awareness of fashion. And finally, in the concluding sentence, the writer says about the role of this magazine for young women in 1990s. Just see, the topic sentence expresses the attitude of a girl in her juvenile days or in her early young days, and the terminator also refers to that age when young women were inspired or made aware of the fashions by a particular magazine. Thus, we see that both in the topic sentence and in the terminator, there are some common ideas. Here we get the common idea of the age of the speaker in the topic sentence and in the terminator. Therefore, when you go for writing a formal paragraph in the examination script or in your practical life, for some official correspondence, for some formal writing, you must follow such a structure of writing paragraphs in which there should be three distinctive parts called topic, developers and the terminator. And at the same time, you should be aware that the topic should introduce the idea or the subject of your writing. Then you write a number of sentences to develop the idea stated in the topic sentence with the help of supporting the idea or explaining or showing the comparison or the contrast. Finally, you conclude the paragraph with a suitable terminator that has a coherence with both the topic sentence and the developers. So that in the terminator, the whole attitude towards the paragraph, towards the writing is expressed. Thus, you end the paragraph with a terminator to maintain the balance of the paragraph till its end. That is called a well organized paragraph written. And now we are going for another example to show how structured paragraphs are developed. Here we have another paragraph written in the structured form or in the guided form. This is a paragraph developed by the use of the technique of examples. First I read that paragraph, then I will explain its different parts, how the ideas are developed. When I was a little boy in elementary school, the neighborhood kids and I looked forward to playing so many games in my backyard during the long summer holidays between grades. For instance, one of favorite games was cricket. We needed only a cheap plastic bat and a cheap plastic ball, and we could entertain ourselves in the backyard from morning to afternoon. Or if we broke the bat or lost the ball, we would play Red Rover, the name of another game. To play this game, we would join hands in two opposing lines and hurl ourselves at the lock wrists of the opposing team, trying to break through their line. Once the sun set, our favorite game was hide and seek. My backyard was perfect because there were lots of bushes and trees where we could hide out of sight of the kids. Who was it? Even now, 50 years later, I still look back on all those fun summertime games out in my backyard with a lot of fondness. In this paragraph, the writer is of 50 years old and he recalls the memory of his childhood, particularly the games he played in his childhood with his friends. The topic, look at the topic sentence. When I was a little boy in elementary school, the neighborhood kids and I all looked forward to playing so many games in my backyard during the long summer holidays between grades. Look at the phrase, so many games. So many games. And in the developers, the writer presents us the idea of the games he played in his childhood with his friends during his early days of school. How the ideas are developed. He has given us the examples of 3 games he played with his friends in the childhood, and he uses a prepositional phrase, for instance. This type of phrases are required when you write a guided paragraph. For instance, instead of writing this phrase, one can also write, for example, and such type of phrases can also be used to develop such a paragraph. And he gives the most presents the idea of the most popular game in those days in his early life. One of our favorite games was cricket. Then he goes for explaining what was needed to play cricket, and he does not use a number of sentences or many words to explain this idea, to develop this idea of cricket. He only gives the elements that are needed, a plastic bat and a cheap plastic ball for playing cricket, and he also gives an idea about the place where they played cricket. Then the writer goes for giving us the idea of another game called Red Rover, which means the pressure on shoulders by the boys in two opponent teams. He explains how the game was played by the writer and his friends, and finally the writer gives the idea of another game that they played during their childhood, that was called the game hide and seek. In this game hide and seek, in the darkness, they enjoyed the evening in the middle of the darkling of in the nature. So, we have the idea of three games in the developers or in the body of the paragraph. And finally, there is an abrupt and very simple conclusion or terminator of the paragraphs. Even now, 50 years later, I still look back on those fun summertime games out in my backyard with a lot of fondness. Well, I am going for the last example paragraph in this class now. Look at another paragraph on screen. नहीं এটা স্ক্রিনে মুখে দেখা যাচ্ছে না কি একটু স্ক্রিনটা অফ করে দাও বোর্ড দেখা যাচ্ছে না কি এটা ঠিক আছে Well, here we are going to read a paragraph using the technique of comparison and contrast. When you write a paragraph using the technique of comparison and contrast, you will write at the same time on two different ideas or two different issues. Here we have the issues acoustic and electric guitars. Acoustic and electric guitars are very much familiar to the student, to the boys and girls of your age. Many of you play on guitars and enjoy playing on guitars. In this paragraph, we will see the similarities and the dissimilarities between two types of guitars, acoustic and electric. The similarities are called the paragraph written with the technique of comparison and the dissimilarities are called the paragraph written with the development with the technique of contrast. Here we have a paragraph written with the use of the technique of comparison and contrast. And when you write such type of paragraphs, the topic should cover both of the subjects to be discussed in the paragraph. As broad as their sounds are, there are several distinct similarities between electric and acoustic guitars. If you are asked to write the paragraph using the technique of comparison only, you have to use a sentence like the sounds of both the acoustic and electric guitars are often similar. But if you are asked to write to develop the paragraph using the technique of contrast, you have to express the idea of this dissimilarities between the sounds of two types of guitars in the topic sentence. Since the technique to be used in this paragraph is the technique of comparison and contrast, we here use a sentence mixing up the similarities and dissimilarities of two types of guitars when they are used. For instance, both utilize the use of a body for the neck to attach to and a neck with the frets for finger placement. The strings attached to the lower end of the body and go all the way to the head or the top of the neck. They both use strings that vary in tongue or size, which are vital to produce sound when they are picked, hammered on or stammered up a group. Similarly, each is tuned in the same manner to produce the proper tone desired. So, we have seen three types, distinctive similarities between the use of between the sounds of the acoustic sound and use of the acoustic and electric guitars. But in the terminator, we have give a hint about the dissimilarity. Although they have varied sounds, acoustic and electric guitars share some similar qualities. This is the terminator in the sentence. That is, I am sorry, I first told you that the paragraph is written by the use of the comparison and contrast technique. Here we have only the comparison of two types of guitars, the acoustic and the electric guitars. I have taken this class which may seem something new to you, because in the classrooms we very rarely discuss about the techniques of writing paragraphs, or we very rarely give the students the ideas about the parts of this of a paragraph and their functions, or the techniques of introducing the topic or something like that. I have designed this class in this manner with a view to giving you the idea how you can develop your paragraphs in a structured way. And you know, the more organized and the more structured the thing is, better than the haphazard ones. So, I think from now on you will not rely on memorizing paragraphs from the guidebooks available in the market for your answer in the examination hall. Rather, you will try to produce your own English in the examination scripts when you are asked to write a paragraph or an essay in the examinations. And when you go for writing in your own language not a reproduction in the examination script. Of course, you will follow the structure, the model of the paragraphs that we have that we get from different sources. And that's all. Thank you for today. Hope to meet you again in the on the 4th of this month at 11, and in that class I will show you some more examples of paragraphs written in the organized forms. Till then, goodbye. Keep well and take your own lessons in your own accord, because we cannot waste time. Though we are absent from the class, we think that we can enrich ourselves reading books and learning new grammatical rules ourselves, following the books available in the markets. Thank you all. Thank you for today.